Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for being here and those that are watching on TV. First order of business is the public hearing. I will turn it over to Mr. Foley. Time out.
And Kim isn't here, but is she going to take the transcript?
She is watching live on YouTube, transcribing the meeting.
So rather than being here in person, our
In fact, we need to get that off so that the audio, for a while during public hearings, so that the audio, just turn the fan on, Jesse, and just turn it up, and then you can turn it back on.
so Kim, our court reporter, is watching this, and she's going to go ahead and do the transcript off of the video recording. And so, just so for review for how we got here, the applicant filed an application for rezoning. Planning and zoning recommended approval of the application or the request. It went to the Board of Aldermen. The Board of Aldermen denied the application or the request. The applicant wasn't at that meeting due to a medical situation that she had with a family member, I understand. And then she filed a letter or a request respectfully asking that the board consider reopening the evidence, as they say, to give her an opportunity to come forward in person and make her presentation. And so the Board of Aldermen then voted to go ahead and approve or grant that request to reopen the evidence, and then this date was set for what's essentially a continuation then of that initial hearing. And we have a couple of new exhibits. Tricia, I'm not sure what number we ended off on. 6, do you recall?
I think that this will probably be number 7.
Okay. We'll go ahead and mark exhibit number 7, the letter from Christine Fulgraf dated September 27, 2021, where she requested the hearing be reopened. And then we'll mark as exhibit 8 the affidavit of publication from the Advertiser Courier confirming that notice of this meeting was published. And then exhibit number 9 will be the actual notice of public hearing that was published in the paper. And so I don't have anything further by way of introductory stuff, other than, Mayor, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I would say if our applicant is here, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Pass them down for you.
Sure.
Yes, you did. Thank you. This is just kind of just maps mostly, just to show. And I know that we have some of our neighbors here. Would any neighbor like to look at what I'm talking about? No? Thank you so much for reconsidering. Oh, sorry. Hi. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for reconsidering.
For the record, please state your name so she can record it.
Thank you. My name is Christine Fulgraf, resident of Hermann since 2008, but our family has owned the farm that we live on since 1972. And we love Hermann, and we're here today to request that you allow us to have a guest house on our very historic and very unique property that's at 106 Gellert Street. It's on French Hill. It was built in 1842, which was on the books. Hermann started in 1836, and so this house was only 5 years old when Hermann actually started. So it's one of our historic houses, and we are very appreciative of its architecture, and we would like, it's also a unique location, and we would like to be able to have the ability to have a guest house on it again, as we did when we bought it in 2011. When we bought it in 2011, we were soon approached by Jim Dearberg. He was hoping to run some sheep from the corner of Reserve Street and 100, and he was hoping to have a barn. He was going to put a bank barn in the back end, which he never has done in that corner. He was going to run sheep through that little corner that he's now developed in a different way. He was going to run that across the front end of our cliff area there and into his vineyard, so it would look really pretty when you came into the city from the east side. And since he's never, we were very agreeable. He's friends of my sister when she lived here in '72, he and Mary, and so we thought that that was a great idea. But the actual idea never came to pass. At that time, the lots, our property, were zoned all in C1. We went back to A1 so that he would be able to do that. It allows him to have agriculture on both sides of us, and including our property. We're the only property where we're sided both sides by Dearberg's property, at least in the front. And in the front is where our guest house is. So it had been a guest house. We would like to reinstate the ability to have the guest house after it's been 9 years, over almost 10 years. This shows basically where our lots are located. It sits out on a knoll all by itself. It has a very nice private driveway that would assume there would probably only be 2 guests. We only have two little bedrooms right now. We have 1 bathroom, and we would probably add another one. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. And at this time, the very last page shows, and I think this is what my neighbors are concerned about, and I do understand that their residential loop, which is in the blue, is in very bad repair as streets go. They're pretty narrow as well, and there has been a lot more traffic because of the developments toward the west end here. But we're on the east end, and our guests, who would be 1 or 2 for a weekend, or 1 or 2 at most cars, would be coming up the orange route. And as you can see, they come up to the corner, and they would turn immediately into our own private property with ample parking on our property. So I feel like we are very hopeful that you will disregard the comments made about or you can regard them, but they shouldn't be the telltale factor for us not getting our rezoning, in our opinion, because we aren't responsible for the condition of the roads. We're sorry that our neighbors are experiencing traffic problems, but our having a guest house there wouldn't actually add anything to it. In fact, if we rented the house, it would be just as much, as a residence, it would be just as much traffic, and maybe more during the week, as it would be to have a guest house and have people there on the weekends. We have no intention of selling the house. We have no intention of further developing the house or the property at this point, and even long term. So that's, and even if we don't get the rezoning, we love our house. We'll be able to keep it for a while, but we would actually be able to enjoy it and share it more if we could have a little income from it and be able to restore it in its proper grandeur. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Anybody have any questions on the?
Would it be a whole house rental?
So it's a whole house rental because it's so small. If you would see it, it's got one bedroom on the first floor, which is the walk-in floor. It's very unique. It kind of goes down the hill. So the lower level, which would normally be a basement, has one bedroom there. There's one small bathroom on the first level right as you come in the door, and we don't have any intentions of making it any bigger, or we would like to put a sort of a circa, Civil War circa, really nice deck on it that would be a little bit more attractive than the rectangular one that's there, because it's very prominent as a house coming into Hermann. We like how it sits, and we like being able to make it look as nice as it can when people look up the hill there.
If you have no plans to develop the rest of the property, why do you need anything but the lot that the house is, it's all rezoned?
Well, this was suggested to us when we were in the Planning and Zoning Committee, and originally it was all C1, all 6 lots. So
But
actually
you
we're
requested
giving
that
up.
it be rezoned agricultural.
I requested it would be rezoned agricultural in friendship to Jim Dearberg when he did that.
But it had to be your request, or they would not have taken it up. You had to have filed for the agricultural designation.
That was in about 2012. That's when he had really solid plans of, that was way before he developed that whole corner, and he was gonna put that bank barn that he actually owns the wood to. He actually bought a barn to set back in that corner now where kind of parking is in the back part there. And we went along with him because we thought it was a beautiful idea to have sheep running up there.
But he's not the one that requested it be rezoning. You had to have gone to planning and zoning and requested a change in zoning, correct?
We did it as a team. He actually did. I actually never went to a planning and zoning meeting. I came to the alderman meeting at that time with Jim Dearberg. And I'm not denying that we were in complete compliance because we thought it was a great idea.
Anybody else?
Did notice on your drawing, I believe you said also for your guest house, you will have off-the-street parking available for the number of sleeping rooms that you have.
Absolutely.
So there would be no blockage on Gellert or each section.
There'd be no street parking at all, no need to. In fact, that would be kind of probably a little bit dangerous because it is we would come off and have all of our cars off the street for sure. And it's actually quite a bit off the street because it's all the way down the lot to our house. If you've been there, you can see it would be right in front of our garage.
Do you have anything?
No, I went and looked at the property and
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We do have some speaker cards, so you can go ahead and sit down. Paul Peterson, please.
A few things I'm going to pass on, if that's okay.
you can record.
Sorry. Except the papers can have.
Just make it.
You need this.
Yeah, if you just want to take that one, don't, yeah.
Okay.
Just take one pass one, thank you. Thanks for. Do we, copy news here? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you allowing me to come and speak before you. My name's Paul Peterson. I live at 500 East 2nd Street. I'm accompanied by several of my neighbors here. And when we were here with Planning and Zoning back in September, I think we made a pretty clear case with the petition that we submitted during that Planning and Zoning Committee. We had a lot of our neighbors with over 300 years of home ownership on East Hill sign that petition, very opposed against us putting another guest cottage up on East Hill. And I just want to go on record stating that this really isn't about traffic flow and the conditions of the streets, because I think that's pretty much understood that that's an area, as Mr. Kallmeyer would put it, is a mule road. Hasn't changed for many, many years. We don't probably obviously seen that change for a while. And frankly, I think, you know, our neighbors are okay with that. We've been dealing with that for, ever since really, since 2007, 2008, when Mr. Dearberg put that, you know, development up there. I'm personally not against development. I'm a business person myself here locally in this town. But when it comes to residential neighborhoods, I think there has to come to a time when we have to really decide what direction do we want to go as a city. And I know a lot of folks that have been voted into office have gone on a platform where they really want to minimize the amount of commercial business occurring in a residential area. And that's why we imposed those restrictions back in 2016. And since then, you know, I think we've done a pretty good job of curtailing that type of activity in residential zones. And frankly, for me that lives and invests in East Hill, I just really want to protect that area. And again, I think maybe we look at this as an opportunity of, well, what's just one more guest house because it has historical relevance, or what's the problem with, you know, a few more cars? Well, the problem is, again, it's not traffic flow, it's pure traffic volume. And I'd like to demonstrate that with this pictorial map that basically covers our property, and it demonstrates the number of sleeping rooms in 1 square block. And I'm gonna just pass this around. Those numbers actually depict the number of sleeping rooms. I didn't actually put the business name on there. If you'd like to know the business name, I could actually help you out with that. But obviously the big number on there, 46, is Jim's development on the backside of that neighborhood. Some of the pamphlets I passed around just on one Saturday morning, I went around my neighborhood and I counted the number of vehicles that were on my block. And on that block, and just what I counted at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning, was 35 vehicles parked. Those are 35 vehicles that have to traverse our neighborhood streets. You know, I'm a little bit older. I don't have grandkids yet, but I'm gonna have grandkids. I'm not gonna want my grandkids riding bikes up and down Second or Geller. I know a couple of my neighbors here, they already have grandkids. It's a shame that we can't use our neighborhood the way it was intended to be, which is for residential purposes, and it slowly has transformed over into a commercial district. And that really is truly our concern here, and why we lay out, you know, the evidence here that clearly states that we're strictly opposed based upon the sheer volume and the numbers of vehicles and commercial business that's already polluted our streets. So with that being said, I have nothing further to add, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take any.
Anyone? Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, appreciate the opportunity.
Sarah Hackman, please.
I'm fine. What Paul said is exactly what, sorry, Sarah Hackman. What Paul said is exactly what is our feeling.
Buckerhoff?
Good evening, I'm Curtis Bruckerhoff. I live at 426 East 2nd. The historic house is directly across the street from me, and the other residence is right next door to me that they're not even talking about. I guess I got a couple questions is what I want. Dearberg's residence, the houses down there, what are they zoned? What's the zoning for them? What are they considered?
They would have to see when they're facing the highway.
You know, the ones that at the end of East 2nd Street.
On Franklin Street there.
Franklin and East
I believe
2nd.
those are all C1,
Okay.
if I'm correct.
I didn't know.
There's got a map there.
There's C1.
Okay. Christine made the comment that her property was C1 at one time. I'm not sure that's correct.
That's correct.
It is correct, it was C1 at one time?
Yes.
In the last 28 years that I've been up there? I've never,
Whenever the date was that they rezoned it, that was, I don't know the exact date.
Until 2012.
I just have two questions. All
Okay.
6 of them were?
We'd have to check.
Because she said all 6, and I'm just wondering, the 3 that are follow-up.
because I,
This is
Previous owner-
36, 37, and 69, 71, and 73.
so the house was C1 at one time.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the current zoning map, during reference, I believe it, all 6 lots went A1 or AG at one time.
Okay. I want to reiterate some things Paul said. Yes, the amount of traffic up there, maybe not so much from the guests, but, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but the cleaning crew, fast. I've tried to yell at them different times to slow down. That's a problem. They drive too fast down 2nd Street. And I pull up to my mailbox, which is on the south side of 2nd Street. I want to get my mail. There are guests coming down the street, and they want to try and pass me on this side. Well, if they get over too far, they're going to be down on 1st Street pretty quick. So there needs to be something, if we're going to have this traffic flow, the amount of traffic, and no way am I in favor of a one-way street there. I know that's been brought up before. No way.
How come?
Because I back down on my driveway and go that way and I pull in the other way. Just the way my driveway is built. So, just some comments and questions. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your input. Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Any discussion?
The current zoning of that property is what the owner requested it to. Oh, I'm sorry, we have somebody else?
Yeah, I just actually want to come up and just clarify one thing, as I have been listening to my neighbors. Looking at the map here, and again, this is just a smaller depiction of what was provided by the city. This is really just kind of the lots that was provided on that road. I guess what I don't understand is the fact that that neighborhood is really composed of, half acre, three-quarter, half acre lots up there. They're pretty spread out homes. And we want to subdivide one of those lots into 6 separate lots, which has really never been done before. And it just honestly wouldn't go with the aesthetics of the rest of the neighborhood. The 3 residential lots that are being requested to be rezoned residential face south on, I guess that would be 2nd. 2 of those lots are in a ravine. So I'm not quite sure if residential, those would even be able to be developed. The 3rd lot actually sits right in front of the historical house and the garage. So if that's zone residential, the lot next to it is zone residential, which is in a culvert, and the house next to that is rezoned residential, and that's in a culvert. I guess the question is why are we even thinking about rezoning that residential when there really theoretically and realistically couldn't be a home put on there? So really, my concern isn't the residential because it's never going to be developed. They're never going to be sold because no one in the right mind is ever going to develop a home on there. My concern still falls back on, and Dave made a good point, what's the point of having everything commercial if we're just looking at the intent of having a commercial bed and breakfast on that historical house property?
She's not requesting everything to be commercial.
The 3 lots zone south, or north she is.
Right.
So that's my question is, I don't understand the whole zoning part of wanting to go back to commercial if the goal is only to put a business on one of those lots.
But she's putting a commercial business on the commercial lot, right?
It's agriculture right now, but that's what she's requesting, yeah. But she's also asking to rezone the other 2 adjacent lots commercial as well. And that's the intent. So again, when you really look at the maps, the 3 lots that actually are numbered 69, 71, and 73. 69 and 71 are in a ravine. 73 is directly in front. Actually, it's on the driveway of that commercial or that agricultural lot where the historical home sits. And the lots 37, 36, and 35, which point north, are what's being requested to be zoned commercial. So the question is, I would understand lot 37 being zoned commercial because that's where the historical building is located, but I'm not quite sure what the request is for 36 and 35, which basically sit on the hillside, facing Highway 100.
I can't speak for them, but it just seems to me that the residential would be residential and the commercial strip would be commercial, but I mean, I don't think anything can be developed there anyway, you know, the way it's built.
You know, I thought a lot about that, Mr. Mayor, and that's really, I guess, where my concern is we probably never thought that, you know, that Terry Hammer would be able to develop that hillside up there either, but he did.
That's true.
So I think what we're doing is we're just squeaking that door open by allowing something to go commercial now, and then we're kicking that can down the road. And I'm just, again, stating the obvious facts is it's not flow of traffic, it's volume. We have enough volume up there to begin with. And open up Pandora's box for more commercial activity after we've had 300 years of home ownership experience say we don't want it, is probably for us is what we're standing for. So thank you for the clarification.
I have a question. If you look at the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes of August 26th and go down into public hearing, I mean, we're talking about what it was before. Under A, it says, the last sentence, this is how the property was zoned before the A1 change. So wouldn't that mean it was C1 and R1 at that point?
Correct.
That's what it was, that's what this says, is that's what it was before. So she's wanting to go back to what it was before, right?
But on that same note, this is what she wanted that property zoned. She requested it, turned to A1. You cannot just keep changing the zoning of the property continuously. It's zoned the way she wanted it.
It's
It used
zoned
to.
the way Deerbrook wanted it, she just went along.
Well, if you're sucking it up to your neighbor, that's fine, but you still have to request that zoning on your own property.
I understand.
I mean, it was operated as a guest house at one time, that's fine, and if it continued to be operated as a guest house, she could still do that, but it was down more than 6 months, and our rules say if it's down more than 6 months, it can't be a guest house again. The people up there don't want any more congestion. There's no reason for rezoning all those lots if you're not planning on some type of development. Maybe not at this time, but sometime in the future, and the only access to those lots is from above. Down below, it's a rock wall. And to say you can't develop it, he made a very good point about that
That's true.
chalet up on the hill there. You can develop anything if you have the time and money to do it. The people in that neighborhood don't want this changed. And I just, I think we made the correct decision when we voted on it before.
I think I'll mention in there, I know Paul mentioned about, in his opinion, there could not be anything built in that swag, that ravine of wood. But those have been around, Ctal was that way also. It was just a deep valley, not even a lake there, but our forefathers had the vision to develop that into a residential section. And we do have within this community tree houses. It's outside the city. It's a far reach, but that opportunity to saying that they can't be built on that property. So it can be done. And I still, my vision of what I see here, what I read, is the synopsis of against allowing is the street conditions, which totally falls upon our shoulders to fix. The streets are not to code as our city ordinances call for. So should we deny this lady the opportunity? Maybe some of the property that's on East Second Street is actually on city right of way. Because we do call for 30 to 50 foot right of way. And that East Second Street from Gellert to Franklin's only 12 foot wide. So there's 18 foot of space that the city owns. That's the only thing I have to add on to it.
Well, this isn't the end of this. You're allowed to reapply in 2 years. And our situation with everything may change in that period of time. But for right now, I cannot vote in favor of this. It just is not doable.
Could, Dolores, the planning and zoning person is here. Could you come up and tell us why the planning and zoning commission asked that be, or that would be allowed? Not to put you under the gun, but. No, that's all right, that's fine.
Yes, I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we did meet, and Mr. Peters and a number of the residents were at the meeting, voicing their concerns. And the only thing I can remember, they were concerned about the street issues. The street too narrow, the street, I think it was Second Street was too narrow. People were parking on grass, whatever. And the planning and zoning, we felt it was not, how should I put this? Full-grass, it's not their responsibility to make the street wider. It's the city's responsibility, not the property owner. And we did not feel that the full-grass should have been penalized by denying the request to put the 3 lots on Second Street back to residential and the 3 lots on First Street to commercial, which is what they were originally. And that's basically what the P&Z decided. We felt it, they had that it was not detrimental to the area by them having a guest house in that area.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anything else with Dolores? Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think the rezoning makes sense, the north versus the south, with the way the house sits on the north lot, which would be 37, I don't really see how there would be anything you could do on 35 or 36. And 69, the south lots being residential would kind of control any future developments. I think kind of the main, obviously Second Street is way too narrow, but I think the problem is that intersection, the way it crowns. I don't know if we could do anything, but I think the problem is on our end, not their end.
There isn't enough land there to do a lot with anything. But all access to this property, as I said, has to come from the south side, from the uphill side. You just can't do it from the bottom.
But access to her property is not really going past that intersection. They turn into her property right at the intersection.
But the rest
So
of
they
that
don't burn
property
that
that
narrow
you're
road.
going, the rest of the property you're wanting rezoning is,
Well, I
lays along
understand that.
Second
There's
Street.
nothing there.
And as I said, if there was no plan to development, why are we rezoning it? The zoning right now is what she requested. It's what she wanted. It didn't change owners and hands and they decided they wanted something different. She went to planning and zoning and requested this. Her motives for that are hers.
I understand that.
But we can't change the zoning every time somebody decides to do something different with their property.
Oh, yes, you can. You just.
Well, I guess you can, but
You just said
we're not
you
supposed
do
to.
2 years, but anyway, okay. We've spent quite a bit of time. There's a lot more to discuss this evening. Do you, what is your pleasure?
I make a motion to rezone the property owned lots 35, 37, or 35, 36, and 37 on East First, and lots 69, 71, and 73 on East Second to be rezoned
To the original zoning?
to the original zoning of C1 for 36, 35, 36, 37, and R1 for 69, 71, and 73.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made in second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
3 ayes, one negative. So carried. Thank you everyone for your input and your time. Okay, next on the agenda will be the cemetery restoration presentation. Move out of the way.
My name is Lois Cruz, and I'm here on behalf of the Brush and Pallet Club, and on the matter of further work of cemetery restoration in the Hermann City Cemetery. And I need to probably give a little, or I feel like I need to give a little background, because many of you who were involved, who are now involved in city government, were not when the cemetery restoration work began. If you go to the cemetery now, to the older upper portions, you might look around and wonder, has anything been done there? The cemetery looks fine. But if you had seen the cemetery before that work was done, there would have been many gravestones that were falling over, that were leaning, that were at dangerous angles. And if any of you are interested, we do have photos. Also, it was at a period of time when tourists were talking to some of our bed and breakfast owners and expressing concern about the condition of the cemetery at that time. And there are many people who go to the cemetery to do research and just to visit graves and so on. And so we felt that the condition of the cemetery was a little bit of an embarrassment for a tourist town, and actually showed a little bit of lack of respect for those who had created the history that made us into a tourist town. So after,
Do you need some lights up?
he's not ready. He's going to let me talk a little bit more. After the Brush and Pallet Club had finished the rotunda restoration, we immediately turned to fundraising for the city cemetery, and that started in March of 2011. We had 9 fundraisers, dinners plus auctions, ice cream socials and auctions, cemetery walks, and so on. We were given a challenge grant of $30,000 by Jack Baumstark if we could match that $30,000 within X number of days. I think he suggested 30. We went to 60, I believe. We were able to raise that money. And so in total, we raised $158,000 for restoration in the cemetery. To date, we have spent about $152,000 in restoration work. We got involved with York Cemetery Service of Clarksburg, Missouri, and they did the work for us. That $158,000 did not include the Ites and Crypt restoration, which again, if you go to the cemetery and look at the Ites and Crypt today, it's like you can't visualize what was there before and the condition of it before. You see some significant retaining walls that were installed through our restoration work, with concrete walls that were like this and in danger of falling over onto larger stones. And so anyway, we worked on the cemetery. We had fundraisers from 2011 through 2017, and we worked with York Cemetery Service from about 2011 through 2016. Wayne York, who was the wheel behind that restoration service, retired and subsequently has passed away, and his children also retired from the cemetery work. Then, as you may recall, nothing was really happening in the cemetery. The Brush and Pallet Club turned to reconstruction of the bandstand in the city park, which was dedicated in 2020. And very quickly, that brings us up to today. The Brush and Pallet Club has about $6,000 left, the funds that were specifically designated for the cemetery. The city, you have last year set aside $5,000, and then again this year $5,000, and the $5,000 that was set aside last year was transferred into the fund, so that unlike budgets that it goes away, that money is still there to be used. So there's a total of about $16,000 available for cemetery restoration work at this moment, and that brings us to why we're here tonight. Thinking that $16,000 was enough money to make it worthwhile for a company to bring in all of their equipment and so on. We went searching for a new restoration company, and we found Jacob's Ladder, cemetery restoration specialist, and David Snyder is here with us tonight to tell you what he plans to do and what his work consists of. So that was way too quick. I really would like to tell you way more, but how is it?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me here. Lois invited me here. I apologize that I had COVID last time. With the crew you've got here, I should have come then, bro. Anyway, this is, I'm going to pass this around. We've been doing this about 14 years. A lot of this presentation is from earlier on. This is more current work, some of the significant stuff we've done in St. Genevieve and some of the other areas. We do everything but bury people and mow grass. So we do walls, we do stones, we specialize turn of the century and older. Just whatever needs to be done, we try to do it. We do mausoleums, you'll see that. We do sarcophagi and things like that. So I'm going to run through this. It usually takes about 30 minutes. We're going to try to do it in about 10. You got other important things going on. Okay. This is when we started. My son was 11 then, Ben, and he ran the machine and I ran the clamp. He's 24 now, married and working in air conditioning comfort, working on a master's degree. And we made this out of a trencher. We modified it. We took the trencher off, put the box back here full of chat. So then we started calling it, instead of the trencher, the backhoe. We took the backhoe bucket off so we could have a third arm so we could take large obelisks apart. So we decided to just call it the Tuminator. And that's what it says on the back of it. This just gives you an idea of what we do. And I should have said going in here that Wayne York was my mentor. We started out in 2008. Shortly after that, he came up here, and we kind of worked vicariously through him. We were talking to him all the time as we started. We typically do between 600 and 800 stones a season. Just depends. Anyway, stone leveling, resetting, and sealing, mining and cleaning, obviously stone reconstruction, which if you look at these pictures in St. Genevieve, if you know anything about St. Genevieve, it's the oldest village in the state with the oldest cemetery from the 1700s. No granite, very little marble, mostly sandstone, and so we had to do a lot of reconstruction. That was pretty exciting stuff. Replacement bases, these are the same mold designs that I have that Wayne allowed me to copy. Witching graves, finding unmarked graves, and obviously we do a free cemetery evaluation. This is just an example real quick of stones from the same era. You never know what you're going to get. Those two stones are alike until you start digging. This just gives you an idea of how big a stone we can do. I can reach about 8 feet, that's 12 or 13 or so. This is Ben when he was 11. This is in Ctal City Cemetery. It was our first big job, put us on the map. It was 250 stones. And we'll disassemble these, and then we use 3/8 chat underneath to level them, get them back up where they need to be. We reseal, put them back together, and I had to compress this because it's so tall. A lot of Gatorade there, it was hot that day. Stone reconstruction, you'll see some of this in the back of that. This is also in Keatsville. A tree, I think, had fallen on this and broken in 3 pieces. These are the slotted bases we use for large tablet stones. It was broken here and here. And you see that Mr. White died in 1867, and nobody had decorated his grave. You know, it was in a big pile. Memorial Weekend, after Memorial Weekend, I walked in there with the gentleman that was in charge of the cemetery. Somebody had decorated it. So this is really what it's all about, remembering these people. You know, they were standing on their shoulders. They did the hard work so we can live the way we do today, and we need to respect that. And every year, somebody's come and decorated that grave since then, but nobody knows who it is. This just gives you an example on tablet stones in particular. There's a big pie-shaped piece gone here. There are bases underground here, and they're broken. So this was the before picture, and that's the after picture with the bases up. And you notice this is a man and wife. This one's a little shorter. I took a piece off the bottom to make that pie-shaped piece like that. And we also replaced some other lettering that was in there. This just gives you an idea of, how bad a tablet stone can be repaired with today's techniques, with the things that Wayne developed, and with the kinds of epoxies and methods that we have now. You can fix just about everything. And before I go to the next slide, you guys remember the original True Grit movie with John Wayne? I'm sure we do. Remember he lived with a Chinaman and a tabby cat. You guys remember the name of the cat?
General Lee? Oh, General something.
Sterling Price.
Oh, General something.
There you go. This is in Brunswick, and we did some work for a lady, I think the second year that we were around in the cemetery, and she said, when you get done, said, come to my house, and we've got an old cemetery back there that needs some work. I said, I already can do that. So I walked back there with her and looked at this. It was laying face up in about 5 or 6 pieces. And this is actually, it says Sterling Price Jr. on it. And I called the lady that was the president of the Historical Society in Sheridan County, and she said, well, that's neat, but he never had a son. So this was like, what was it, 18, I can't remember the year, but it was the year that the Sterling Price family came to Brunswick, and this guy was 21 years old, so we thought we had some kind of a reality show from back in the day. We couldn't figure out where he came from. Well, it turns out that he was actually his son's, or excuse me, his Sterling Price's brother's son. And back in that time, it wasn't unusual to name another family member Junior and honor them. It didn't have to be like my son or somebody else's. So anyway, I'm sworn to secrecy on where this is. They don't want the rubberneckers to come up the driveway, but this is actually the original Sterling Price family homestead and cemetery. And that's what it'll look like. It's about 5 feet tall when we go back together. So that's what you can expect to see. This is in New Bloomfield, and this actually is the founder's stone. He and his wife both. And they were having work day up there, and some of the kids that were there with the folks that were doing it got bored. Started digging around the corner, and they found this stone. And you can see it has a little bit of a bow to it right there. There's actually a big stone base under it, and it actually warped the stone. So they were getting ready to have the 175th anniversary, and they wanted to see if I could do this. So I took it back to the shop, and this gives you an idea of how we do this. You clean these up, you clean the edges, you come back in with it's a diamond shaped or edged disc that I use, and you put grooves in the edge of that so the epoxy holds. You put it all back together like this, and then when you get done it looks like that. I don't have a picture of it in the base. If you're interested at all, you can look on New Bloomfield's Historical Society website, and there's a video there when they did the rededication and the band played, and it was pretty cool. This just shows different types of things. You guys have got a lot of these up there. This is actually a cast zinc stone, and they're hollow. They made these from about 1870 until 1900 when they could tool granite, and you could buy the style you wanted, and then they bolted in a plate with the name on it. I read an article here about 3 years ago. Some of these are great big. I've seen really tall ones. And during Prohibition in St. Joe, the bootleggers were actually taking the plate out and storing the booze inside the tubes with the plate. This just has to do with cleaning. This also is in Ctal. This was a prominent banking family, and this was their only son. He died at 15. They actually took his death mask and sent it to Europe and had this statue made. But this is just general cleaning, with a solution, and that took about 45 minutes. It took a little longer because of the watch fob and so forth. You might notice that the little finger is gone. I did this presentation not long after I put this slide in for the Historical Society at Ctal, and they said, you want to know the story there? I said, sure. Well, the finger actually had a ring sculpted on it with a diamond inset, and somebody decided they needed it worse than he did, and they broke the finger. I asked them if they wanted me to make a new finger. They said, no, they like the story better, so it's still my son Ben, my youngest daughter Hannah, she was 8 when we started this. She was too young to leave at home. So she would come help clean and take pictures. We were having a cleaning clinic that day in one of the cemeteries. And Ben's spraying this, and Hannah's saying, you missed a spot. and I'm sure you can tell what happened after that. This is an older picture. This has been when he was 16, and Hannah would have been 3 years younger. This was actually just these stones in a pile in a pasture. A gentleman that used to be one of the administrators for Ancestry.com got a hold of me, and he had a well-to-do aunt in Texas who wanted to redo this cemetery like a small family cemetery and be buried there. So we talked to the landowner. They were in favor of it. They'd always wanted to do something. The guy built Morton buildings. He had some equipment. These are the kind of blocks you see along the highway where they're holding back the dirt and things like that. So they put this whole thing in there. It's about 60 feet long, 40 feet wide. The really cool thing about this is this, and the Brookfield Industrial Arts class built that. And they built several for my customers. That there's leaves on the ivy, all kinds of cool stuff. And then there's, you can't see it in this picture, but there's about a 2-foot tall version of it, goes all the way around this. And they put all that in. And I'm sure that any good industrial arts class in high schools or colleges do this, they do it at cost plus 5%, and it, it gives them some real world stuff. You're not just welding a couple pieces of scrap together. You actually, and they come out and install them as well. Just gives you an idea of the vases we use, and these are all from the forms that Wayne had that we use now. This is over by Paris, and in this cemetery they had a tornado come through there in the late 1800s, destroyed the church at that time, a lot of the cemetery and the stones, threw all those stones down over a hill back over here, and about 10, 15 years ago they started pulling them all back up, put them on these pallets. And this is the first cemetery that I worked with Wayne on. It was 150 stones, and he said, well, just come over and work with us. We had our own cemetery on our farm, slave graves, Civil War graves. Family died out in the 40s, that's how we got interested in this. I spent 36 years in manufacturing. I was going to retire around 55 looking for something to do, and saw an article about Wayne, and one thing led to another. Those are just the slotted bases that we use. This just shows the size of what we can do and put on bases. And if you go up in your cemetery, you'll see the same kind of activity. Statue restoration. This is in Moberly, near where we live. We're from just north of Huntsville. There's 3 Civil War statues in this cemetery. This is the Union soldier. They had a lot, these were done in the early 1900s. They had a lot of vandalism. Obviously the brim of the hat's gone, just lots of BB gun and .22 and things like that. So that's after the restoration was completed. They'd also shot off the trigger guard on the gun, and there were bullet holes in here. So that was an exciting thing to do. We enjoyed doing that, something new for us. This was the Confederate officer, and you can see he had taken a lot of abuse. He's a little closer to the ground, and I think that might have been part of it. It was a nice sunny day when I took this picture, but that's him after that. And then like that. They actually had broken the stock off the gun, so we had to redo that as well. Just a different thing here. This is in the St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery in Moberly. This was done in the 1920s, river rock and cement, painted. A lot of Catholic cemeteries, everything is painted. You can see the rock started to come off. Everything was falling apart. They decided they wanted to do it, made a scaffolding here with wire and stainless bolt. This is a product that you can get at Lowe's. It's a cemetery repair product that you use for like corners broken off cement steps. Once it's hard, if you sand it, it throws sparks. The neat thing about this stuff is most of those products you can only do a ½ inch at a time or cracks. You can do up to 2 inches with this. So it makes a real nice stone. There's some more there in that same one. And that shows that one after it's done. That was crooked when I got there. I didn't do that. That shows the whole entranceway. Just something different that we did. Now, Clancy Boots was the one that was here before. He's Wayne York's son-in-law, and he was witching graves in this picture, and so I added him in here. You guys can talk to me later if you want to about witching graves. We could be here a long time talking about that. And that's it. That's our website. There's lots of before and after pictures. If you've had a chance to look at the book that came around, I apologize again for some of the fuzzy pictures, trying to get them off my phone. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate you having me come.
Okay, move on. Mayor's report, very short. Again, one of my favorite things to do is welcome new businesses and new shops, and of course, I need to welcome Antiques Unlimited 3. I'm kind of proud of that one. One thing I want to, the street department's been working on the streets from our tax incentive. Last week there was quite a bit of confusion because at the same time we were doing streets, the street in the park got repaved, and everybody thought we were spending city money on doing that, and we were not. That was a FEMA project. They spent the money to do that. The city had nothing to do with that out of our coffers. So just so everybody understands that. We got several streets done. We got way more to go, but the money only goes so far. I know a lot of people are upset with different, why we don't do this one, why we don't do that one, but infrastructure, base of the streets, all plays a big part into what streets we do. And anyway, I just wanted to explain the levee paving so everybody knew about that. Monday, November 1st, well, first of all, we had a workshop to invite the different venues that had outside music because there was complaints about the noise. At that meeting, workshop, it was basically a workshop for those people to express comments, suggestions, and try and get them to work together to solve the problem before it became a bigger problem. At that meeting, we did not have citizen comments because I wanted to accomplish the goal of these people working together. So, just to give the other side their fair share of time to talk, November 1st at 7 p.m., we're going to have another workshop, and this is for anybody that wants to come and express their concerns or their favorability of the outside music or whatever. So anybody that is interested can come. It will be, again, a workshop, and just want everybody to be aware of that going on so anybody can come. And the only other thing is just remember this coming weekend's Halloween. Friday night is the, from 3 and Friday evening, I should say, afternoon, evening is when the city, not the city, the stores do the walking with all the kids and that, and then of course you have Halloween on Sunday night. So watch out for the little people and enjoy. City Administrator report.
Yes, a couple things. I touched base with both Chief Walker and our tourism director today regarding how the weekend went. Chief Walker said there were no major incidents, but he did say they were had a lot of cooperation from the Highway Patrol, who made several arrests for DWIs over the weekend. Tourism, Tammy said that they were very busy down at the visitor center and greeted nearly 500 passengers getting off the train. And all the lodging establishments were fully booked. And she was noting that it was so great that Amtrak was providing their own police who were down there at the station and riding on the trains, correct? So that went well. I did want to mention your first quarter progress report for the financials was in your mailbox this week. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me or the finance clerk. And I did want to bring to your attention, the ordinance enforcement officer has been really busy in the past couple months. He's been doing the annual lodging inspections for all the lodging establishments. But I also wanted you to know, and the public to know, that he's been addressing some of the nuisance issues in town, especially regarding yard debris. And so he has sent out multiple letters. There are 5 properties that have not complied with satisfactorily to his request. And so he has turned those over to the police department, and Chief Walker now has sent them a letter giving them a 10-day window to clean up their properties. And so then if they do not comply sufficiently, then they will be issued a summons. And so I wanted you to be aware of that. I wanted to mention a couple of the boards and commissions. The Tree Commission is working on submitting a trim grant for tree removal and replacement. They've identified 25 trees with that ash borer disease, primarily down at the Riverfront Park. And so you'll see that that going on. I also wanted to acknowledge the Hermann Youth Sports League Committee. As you guys will recall, 2 years ago, they took it over. They said, hey, we're going to volunteer. We're going to take over this program. And so I just kind of wanted to give them a little acknowledgement tonight. They had a very successful Little League, and they actually ended the season in the black, well in the black, which is highly unusual. Normally, we barely eke out being in the black, and it's normally in the red. So I did want to thank all of those. And most of that money was saved from not having to hire a coordinator. So the volunteers have put in countless hours doing all that, so I wanted to give them some credit. There are also lots of parents and citizen volunteers, 18 business sponsors. I'll just mention some of or I hope that these are all the names of the committee. Kramer, James Steffen, Andy Emmons, Ben Steiner, Jesse Whithouse, Tricia Tyson, Nicole Landau are resigning, but have put in tons of work, and there'll be 2 new members coming on to replace them. So we thank them for everything that they do. And quickly, very exciting money news is that, you know, we've been talking about our American Rescue Act Fund money that we're receiving from the government. Well, the state is receiving a portion from the federal government as well, and they are interested in sharing with the cities for water and wastewater projects. So they're going to set it up much like a grant, and the good thing is that we can use our ARPA funds as the matching grant portion to receive even more money. And there are, of course, countless things to spend that on. Jesse and Darren and myself will be working on the survey. We have to tell them our projects and how much funding we could use. And so that's super exciting. We can really make our money go much further with that. So the last thing, and just by way of announcement, would be the fall leaf pickup has begun starting tomorrow, every Tuesday and Thursday, ending December 2nd. Leaves in trash bags by the curb at 7 a.m. and big trash pickup is on November 6th.
Thank you. Public Works Director.
So I heard back from the engineer on a couple of things we talked about the last time. The Spring Creek gas stabilization, he has a pre-bid meeting set for that for November 10th, and bid openings set for December 1st. Same with the sewer lining that we need to have done this year. Same pre-bid dates. He's also bringing in the changes for the Washington Street curb and gutter to have that looked at November 10th as well, so hopefully we can get that curb and gutter set up for the spring. The survey's been complete, and I think they're setting up elevations on that stuff now. The Ctal booster pump is still sitting with Missouri DNR, waiting on approval for the permit. We've had a bit of a settling issue. I think you guys are probably aware to some extent, down at the Highway 100 bridge on the east side of town. It's still settling. We're working with MoDOT on that, and our engineer as well, trying to come up with a solution. We don't have anything set in stone yet, but I'll kind of keep you guys posted on that as we go. The streets, as the mayor pointed out, we had some paving done in the last couple weeks. The 18th Street project, I think, is pretty well wrapped up now. East 6th Street, the 300 block, I believe it was, got paved. And they're working on painting curbs right now, doing leaf pickup, things like that. They knocked down the waves at 9th and Washington there, and it's a little bit smoother. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And as we get those water lines replaced, that'll be repaired as well. The water department has made a couple new connections to the mains that they've installed. Had sewer repair on Franklin. They've been started the gas corrosion survey for the year. That's an annual thing we have to do. You guys may have noticed we had a pole break off in the wind last night. We were working on that today in the electric department. We've also installed some junctions up at Ctal for the electric, and some
think we put in about 600 feet of primary along Line Street. So there's been a lot of progress in the utilities in the last couple of weeks. Try to keep that going. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, one question. The Washington Street project, you know, we get inundated with calls. Okay, curb and gutters first, correct?
Yeah, so they found out last year, they tried to do the curb and gutter and the asphalt real close together, and it did not work.
Okay, you put the water lines in, that's why it's so rough.
Correct.
Is all the water lines done now, or do they still have to do
So
first?
they still have to do the taps. The main is installed, and the taps have to be done. They pulled off the taps to do the Market Street project whenever MoDOT gave us, you know, a 2-month heads up that they were gonna repave Market
I
Street.
guess my question is, so to satisfy people, is, so the next project is doing the taps before they do the curb and gutter?
Correct. Well, they can do the curb and gutter, so that's one of the,
They go underneath?
right. We'll just use the vac truck. We'll go down on each side of it, pop a hole through.
Is there a timeline for that?
That's the next part of their project list. So I don't have a date set for you.
It's not gonna be before spring though, right?
Well, I wouldn't bet against that. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff, because it'll be one-offs, you know, they'll be able to do, you know, if they got 2 or 3 hours one morning, they can tackle one service, assuming nothing comes up, but like they did one today, and that's the bad thing, you know, I love aerial, because I can see it, you know, these guys that have to do all this mole man stuff, they did a service today that they were told was copper, that ended up being galvanized, that was supposed to be steel from I think it was supposed to be steel from the curb stop to the main, and it ended up being lead, so they had to change that. So it's, you never know what you're gonna get into when it's 80 years old and you don't have good maps.
I understand, I
So-
appreciate that, I just, you know, everybody seems to be more
No,
concerned about Washington than
Yeah,
anything
well,
else in town. and
it's a main thoroughfare, there's no two ways about it, I drive it all the time, so.
Okay.
We're gonna do the best we can with it, and like I say, the worst parts of it, I'm hoping, that's where we're gonna start first, and we'll try to get that smoothed out from there, because we're gonna have to dig it up anyway, so.
All right, thank you.
All
sir.
right.
Anybody else have any
Anybody
questions? Okay. Public comments, we have that. The other public comments are under new business. Any old business? Any new business besides food truck?
The Arts Council is looking for members, so if anyone would like to help the Arts Council, please come to City Hall and pick up a form to fill out. They need you.
Any other? Okay, under new business, we have food trucks under the new business, and everybody's filled out their cards, so as I call your name, please come to the podium. And Nick Rimpel.
And we will be 3 minutes, Mayor?
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead, sorry. Okay. Hello, I'm Nick Renfro from Doxy Slush. I'm here to propose a change to the City of Herman's ordinance regarding mobile and street vendors. To further accomplish this beyond public comments, we are again asking for a workshop for further discussion to take action. Why is this a problem? First off, these vendors are directly competing with our local restaurants, but they incur fewer expenses due to small licensing fees and significantly lower overhead. They're able to charge cheaper prices and undercut all of us on costs in which we cannot compete. Second, what is the from a ownership standpoint, what is the point of investing in and restoring the historical buildings to house our businesses in Hermann if we are going to allow mobile vendors access to the same customer base? If this is going to continue, why should we not board up our windows and just park a food truck out front? It would be cheaper, it would be easier to manage, and we wouldn't need as much staff. So people start food trucks because they don't have the money or they don't want to take the risk of investing in actual restaurants. That's exactly what Stacy, owner of the Save-A-Lot parking lot, has long-term plans to do. By you permitting her to put a permanent food truck in her lot, it promotes Other businesses to do the same by not maintaining their commercial kitchens because it's cheaper. And once you allow one, you've got to allow everybody else to do it as well. Over time, that would take away from the historical charm that all of our buildings create. It would make tourism less desirable, and it would reduce our property values. It also hurts Save-A-Lot, a respected and prominent business in town. Lastly, most of these vendors are coming from other cities, showing up on the days they suspect our town to be busy, collecting their money, and then heading back on the road home. Our brick and mortar businesses, we put in the time. We hold out during the slow weekdays, cold winters, and when we have a chance to make money to help offset some of that, mobile vendors are swooping in our prime locations and taking sales. Reduced sales prevents establishments like ours from having the capital to expand and to be able to serve customers faster. Reduced sales also leads to less tips and money available to pay local workers, which in turn leads to layoffs. How can we solve this problem? Just like other cities, we would like to set zoning requirements away from the historic district, put in place distances that mobile vendors can set up the brick and mortar to brick and mortar establishments. I'm almost done. 200 feet is standard in St. Louis and Washington. And then also offer limited permits to where they can only set up so many times during the year. Lastly, this is not just the view of our business. I have here a petition from 20 downtown businesses that all view everything the same way we do. We're looking for proximity, just to protect our local businesses. That's the second sheet. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Stacy Lampkin.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring enough for you, Corey or Tricia. I'm sorry, I can forward you the document though.
I feel like big government, all this stuff to read.
I'm sorry, I have one, so if you guys want to. Okay. My name is Stacy Lampkin. My husband and I are owners at 219 East First Street, where we, with full city approval and proper permits, have allowed food trucks to operate on our own private property on Oktoberfest weekends for a total of 6 days. When I first learned about the complaints against us 2 weeks ago, I personally went to the 3 businesses the next day to listen and work with them to address their concerns. Their main concern reported to me was that the food trucks were not local vendors. I'd like to point out that the profits from the food trucks that we organize stay here and are reinvested in this community. My husband was born and raised here, graduated Hermann High School, went to college, got married, and brought his family of 6 back here to Hermann to be raised. We made an investment in Hermann in the form of commercial property. Tonight I'd like to discuss some facts regarding mobile food vendors. This should apply to all vendors then, including musicians, caterers, florists, craft vendors, artists, etc., some being non-local vendors, but are essential and vital in the city of Hermann. A vibrant food truck industry benefits everyone. It provides consumers with a wide variety of inexpensive cuisine that they may not otherwise get to enjoy. It gives would-be entrepreneurs a way to pursue their dream, and it can activate underused spaces such as our property. With all the inherent advantages of brick-and-mortar restaurants, such as the stockroom, climate-controlled seating, etc., brick-and-mortar restaurants don't need the additional advantage of government intervention to protect them from food trucks. Furthermore, enacting rules to protect some businesses from competition isn't just wrong, it's unconstitutional. Courts have held that it is illegitimate for state and local governments to pass laws that burden one set of businesses in order to benefit another, more politically powerful business. Proximity restrictions and protectionism exist solely to prevent one business from being able to compete with another, which simply is not a legitimate government interest. In fact, several courts have held that it is such a protectionism runs afoul of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which secures every American's right to earn an honest living. Cities should not enact ordinances to protect established businesses from competition from food trucks. However, ordinances should be solely addressing the public's legitimate health and safety concerns. I've brought along and provided you a 36-page report from the Institute of Justice to substantiate some of the comments that I've made here tonight. The support to have food truck options within the city of Hermann is not solely from food truck vendors. Bed and breakfast owners reported that their guests were pleased with short wait times and food availability. In the midst of a pandemic, the option of open-air eating was well received. Local families brought strollers and kids ran around in an open space. Additional business owners reported that they were thankful for the opportunity to step out of their store for a quick bite to eat. And frankly, it draws more people to our city. I heard numerous times just this past weekend, people came from as far as Bowling Green, Union, Sullivan, just to come for food trucks and then frequented other businesses while in town. In closing, we look forward to continuing the open dialogue to address concerns in regards to food trucks. My family has an investment in this community in more ways than one. We are hopeful that we will be able to continue to pursue our business as others before us have been allowed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to pass out just, Nick had mentioned the City of Washington's food truck ordinance, and I spoke with the City of Washington, and that ordinance only applies to public property, not private property.
Okay, Justin Offerman.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen. My name is Justin Alferman, and for 4 years, I had the pleasure of serving as a state legislator for the city of Hermann, but prior to that, probably more important than that, I got the opportunity to serve as Hermann's Ward 2 Alderman for 4 years. So I want to say that because I understand the tough issues that you all face, all the calls that you get, and having to balance all of those issues to make your decisions. So that's not lost on me. The real reason that I'm here tonight is I want to give you all a little bit of historical perspective on food trucks. In 2014, a food truck from Washington set up residency in a parking lot in Hermann. And we had this same debate. We had local businesses, called up Mayor Schabel, and he put it on the agenda to talk about. That food truck, that Papa John's truck, did very well. I believe they don't come anymore due to the pandemic more than anything, but I digress. In 2014, Mayor Schabel did put that on the Board of Aldermen to discuss, and the Board of Aldermen took no action to regulate those businesses. And there were 3 main reasons that they did this. The first was the Board of Aldermen at that time acknowledged that the property paid, that the food truck was on, paid property tax, the food truck paid sales tax, along with obtaining every single business license and regulation that the city of Hermann required of it. Secondly, the board acknowledged at that time that it was not the job of the Board of Aldermen to pick winners and losers when it came to economics. There was clearly a demand amongst the citizens of Hermann for that food truck to be in town. Otherwise, that food truck would not have been coming. So to deny that food truck, at that time, the Board of Aldermen said that would be denying the citizens of Hermann a product of which they were consuming. The third and the most important, I think, was that the board recognized that the activity was happening on private property. Now, legal counsel at the time, full disclosure, at the meeting that was discussed, Dave Polite was not there. Just want to acknowledge that his firm was there. Dave himself wasn't. But legal counsel at the time expressed a very real concern that the city could not prohibit this activity of food trucks if they had all the proper operating permits, and that the city could face legal challenge if they tried to do so. What I'm asking you tonight is not all that hard and not all that difficult. I'm asking that you please don't regulate businesses out of existence by picking winners and losers. I would ask that you continue to side with the free market, continue to side with the precedent that was set 7 years ago. I thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the decision process that we had 7 years ago.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Clayton Newell. I hope I pronounced that right.
Hi, I'm Clayton Newell. I'm a resident here of Hermann for the last year and a half. I've also got a commercial property that I'm working on restoring downtown to put a distillery in that will be opening very, very soon. We're going through our legal stuff with the government at the moment. But so from a business owner standpoint and a resident standpoint is where I come to you today. My daughter, Marley, is 8 years old. She owns Quench by Marley, lemonade food truck, right? So it's a half-scale food truck that we built. That was her dream as an 8-year-old, is to own this little food truck. So this spring here in Hermann, using materials that mostly bought here in Hermann, we built this truck for her. We spent almost $5,000 putting this truck together, which was her entire life savings as an 8-year-old. Everything that she'd ever got for every birthday, everything. She's ran it here in Hermann and at her grandparents' shop in Troy, Missouri. Now, a little bit of my background. For the last decade, I have been in business management. I've ran companies as small as 8, 9 people up to 50. And I have worked with these companies for, whether it be a year or 4 years, to turn companies around and make them profitable. So I know a little bit about business. I've done tens of millions of dollars worth of business myself in the last 10 years. My wife, who I lean on greatly, is a marketing director who's done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business in the last 10 years. And sometimes in a single year, hundreds of millions of dollars through her. So a little bit about business. Food trucks, social media influence is a big thing nowadays, right? With influence. So the city of Hermann, Visit Hermann actually has about 32,000 social media followers, and we are a tourist town. People tend to like us. The 11 food trucks that are kind of question for October have a little over 42,000 followers. Those trucks have averaged 5 to 6. So that cumulatively with those 11 trucks, they've averaged 5 to 6 social media posts per time that they come to Hermann. So that is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars spent, and the value of that outreach is what's drawing people in from Bowling Green and things like that. And as Stacy said, those people that are coming down to First Street to see those aren't just going to come in, grab a sandwich, and leave. They're going to stick around and visit some of these shops. One of the biggest things, so I've got a good friend who camps at the Hermann campground about 25 weeks a year, and yep, I know. One of the biggest things I hear from them is they from people at the campground is they avoid First Street or avoid downtown eating because they're not going to get a seat, they're not going to get a table, they're not going to get food. I just spent some time, I know my time's up, but just spent some time with a bunch of people that I had in town that had to leave town early because they weren't going to wait 2 hours to get a seat at a restaurant. So I don't think that we're properly even to the point where we're able to, with the food venues that we have here during our peak times, to just service the people that are already here, let alone worry about the new business that we're taking from one another. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Ashgear?
Hello, my name is Ash Gears. I live at 310 West 15th. First off, I just want to say thank you for putting the topic of food trucks on the agenda. Something that stirred the pot with me and some of my First Street colleagues over the last month or so. My business is here 7 days a week, year-round. We employ local people. We support Little League teams. I donate to local organizations. We hold fundraisers. We just held one last week for the Music Boosters. Last year alone, we donated nearly $6,000 to organizations within the community through the downtown deli. The out-of-town food trucks have hurt our weekend sales this October. I track our hourly sales, and I can say in full confidence that the out-of-town businesses have definitely hurt my sales when they're operating. I'm looking to my local government for help. We need to have restrictions in place to prevent the out-of-town businesses from hurting our local businesses who are fully vested in Hermann. Many communities, including St. Anne, Lee Summit, Jefferson City, among many others, have restrictions allowing food trucks to operate within 250 to 300 yards of an existing restaurant. I challenge our Board of Aldermen to do the same here in Hermann. Yes, exceptions can be made for special events such as Jazz Fest at the amphitheater, as well as local non-for-profit organizations to raise money for community service. Right now, on a weekly basis, a new restaurant district is popping up directly across the street from me. I'm not afraid of competition, but this is unfair competition. I wouldn't deny the new owners of 219 East Street an income, but this scenario is affecting my income. Let us, the existing businesses in Hermann, represent Hermann, not the out-of-town opportunistic food trucks. Again, I challenge our local government to examine this issue and help the businesses that work here, live here, raise families here to be our primary concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Walker.
It's a long meeting tonight.
Yes.
I'm Jamie Walker. I'm the owner of Stomping Grounds on First Street. And this is an interesting issue, and I think it was a hasty decision on your guys' part, I think initially. This kind of meeting should have happened prior to the approval, really, of what's going on over there in that lot. But I think it's really a slap in the face for a lot of the business owners when you park a mobile business directly across the street from a brick and mortar. And you have to think back, I mean, we're going back, this just isn't 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I mean, for a long time now, there's been a lot of historic preservation here, and a lot of money spent on buildings, tons of money. Just talk to Jim Dearberg. He blazed the trail. He blazed the trail for me, and he's blazed the trail for a lot of other entrepreneurs that have come to this town to invest money in property, brick and mortar, okay, businesses. We employ local people, all right? It's not a mobile business. They don't come in and I mean, it's easy for a mobile business to come in and cherry pick the days and the holidays and Oktoberfest. That's the easy stuff. But we sit out there, and there's a lot of days, especially through our development period, where we lost money during the week, and we're open every day of the week. So we serve the community. We serve the community, and if there's days we have to lose money, I'm all in. I don't care. Okay, but there's a number of businesses like that downtown. I don't choose to be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's where we do the bulk of our business. No mistake. Okay, that's the tourism. But we're here, like Ash said, we're here 7 days a week serving the community. Okay, we're not here just on the weekend. Now maybe we could be. We formed a coalition and everybody decided just not to be open Monday through Wednesday. Maybe that'll solve it. Maybe we just do just what the food trucks are doing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We cherry pick ourselves.
A lot of them do that already.
True. But you can't operate a town collectively if everything's closed Monday through Wednesday. And that's what I'm saying. I want you to relook the situation at what you hear tonight. And I don't know all the legalities. And that's private property over there, and that's fine. And I'm not against food trucks and the entrepreneurial spirit, whether it's a child or an 80-year-old man. But where it's located is the face of this, of Hermann. Though that Market Street, that commercial corridor, First Street, that's the face of Hermann. Okay, you just had 500 passengers come off the train this weekend. They're walking, okay? They're not, what differentiates us is the experiences, okay? They're coming here for the experience. I'm coming to Hermann for an experience. I'm not coming here to go through a drive-through or to go to a food truck. The food trucks have following, yes, but I'm not jumping all around the state to go to following a specific food truck. Our visitors are coming here for experiences. That's probably, that's all my time I've got, but that's.
Appreciate your input. Thank you. Gary Watts.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. I just came in tonight. As we've had many calls to the chamber, and so they'd asked me to come here to kind of represent for our local Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things, I don't envy your roles, because as I listen to the team here, both sides of this issue has some very valid points. And it's hard to say both sides are right, because our community is made up of a lot of long-standing businesses that are brick and mortar that deserves the right to be able to function and grow and do what they need to. On the other side, we need to see the growth that we see from whether it's food trucks or other items, because we all know in a town, if we're not growing, we're dying. And so it's great to see this new businesses coming in, stimulating economy. And I know many people will vote with their dollars on where and how they want to spend those monies. Sometimes it's out of convenience, sometimes it's out of preference. But as you look at taking those next steps, one, doing what we're doing here tonight and getting to hear the voice of each of those businesses is critical, because whichever direction we end up going, the business community needs to be heard. They need to be understood. You're not going to be able to come up with a solution that meets both sides, but we do want to make sure that we have careful consideration. I know from our end, we have people that have spoken on pro for food trucks outside of the community, but we've also had those who have spoken for looking for the brick and mortar businesses. And again, and I don't think it's necessarily that we can only do one or the other. I think there is room for both, but understanding how we're going to navigate that is going to be critical. We definitely offer what we can do to support for those business communities, and we can share understandings. And some communities where they've seen that it actually end up long-term helping some of the local businesses by driving foot traffic and getting into there. But we also know sometimes when you have your own business, short-term results can also mean are you in the red or in the black. And so we want to make sure that as we look at if we need to transition in this direction to drive revenue for our community, then let's just do it smartly and intelligently and well thought of. And any way that we can help, we will. But like I said, I know this is a difficult task. We just want to make sure any way we can help, we will. And whichever decision we decide to go down, we'll support. As long as we've got strong, fair market, fair trade, following all the local businesses, ordinances, no preferentials on either side. If it's a level playing field, it's the right thing to do. But when it comes down to it, just let us know how we can help for any of those, and in that decision making, any input we can provide. Because like I said, it's going to be hard to sit here and come up with the right answer right now. So anyway, we just want to put that offer out there and let people know we're here to help.
All right, thank you for your input. I want to thank everybody for speaking. We have lots of things to look at and read, and of course there'll be no decision tonight of what will come down the road. A workshop is a good idea, I like that. After we get done with the other work. So anyway, again, I want to thank everybody. You all have any comments?
I think you better plan on 2 workshops for this one.
Well,
yeah,
one to start. So we will, when we can come up with doing that, we're going into the cold season anyway, so over the fall and winter months here, maybe we can get together and try and come up with some ideas and solutions. Again, thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll move on to motions. I have a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
I move to approve the
Second.
meeting minutes.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Invoices for payment.
move we pay the bill.
Motion's been made to pay the bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pay the bill. Dental and life insurance renewal. You have that in your packet. slight increase, but we have a motion for
I move to approve on the city administrator's
recommendation.
yes, recommendation.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We have a special event application for the Tina Gals fundraiser cornhole tournament, food and music at Sesquicentennial, November 6, 2021.
Move to approve.
Motion been made to approve, second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. We want to reappoint Tom Durham to the Board of Adjustment.
I move to approve Tom Durham to the Board of Adjustment.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approve the continuation of Book Direct Simple View Reservation Software Contract and Tourism Partnership Documents.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made to adjourn. We have a second.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a good Halloween. Terry, that means